Chapter 1. You're going to marry him. For all of us. The Harrington mansion was carved from polished silence and cold marble, the kind of place that echoed with money and secrets. But Harry wasn't there yet. He sat stiffly on the velvet couch in the living room of his adoptive family's estate, hands tucked neatly into his lap, eyes lowered as if afraid to meet the gilded chandelier's gaze. The floor beneath his shoes was glassy and expensive, reflecting his pale, almost too delicate features. His dark curls framed his face like a shadowed halo, and his eyes, large, brown, expressive, were the kind that begged to be treated gently. But no one in that room had ever treated Harry gently. Across from him sat his father, Gregor Alden, all sharp edges and tailored suits, nursing a glass of something amber and powerful. His mother, Lorraine, perched beside him in pearls and distaste, eyes cold as winter hailstones. And his older brother, Mason, lounged against the wall with his usual smirk, the one that made Harry feel like an insect under a microscope. Lorraine's voice broke the silence. "You're going to marry Cole Harrington." Harry blinked. For a moment, he wasn't sure he'd heard right. "I'm sorry?" "You heard her," Gregor said, setting his drink down with a dull thunk. "It's been arranged. You'll be married next week." He stared at them, heart beginning to pound. "But why? I don't even know him." Mason snorted. "You don't need to know him, Harry. You just need to play your part." Harry's chest tightened. "But I'm still in school. I have exams. I was supposed to." "We've paid for everything you have," Lorraine said icily. "The clothes on your back, the tuition, the roof over your head. Do you really think those things were free?" And there it was, the quiet debt they always reminded him of. Harry bit the inside of his cheek, hard. Gregor leaned forward. "Cole Harrington is a billionaire. Ruthless. Guarded. Doesn't trust a soul. Which makes him vulnerable. He needs to marry to access his grandfather's inheritance. He's desperate, and willing to pay." "He's offering $5 million, Mason added, his voice low and greedy. "Up front, double that if the marriage lasts the year." Harry's mouth went dry. "$5 million? 10? Gregor continued, "We want you to get close to him, gain his trust, and when the time is right, help us access what we need. Business records, insider details, whatever you can get." I can't steal from him," Harry whispered. "You can and you will," Lorraine snapped. "This family took you in when no one else wanted you. We gave you a name. You owe us." I'm not even your real son," he said before he could stop himself. His voice cracked at the end. "Exactly," Mason said, walking over. He crouched beside the couch, fake sympathy in his eyes. "You're not one of us, Harry, but you could be useful." Harry's throat felt too tight to speak. He stared down at his trembling hands. His dreams of a quiet life, of falling in love with someone who cherished him, of finishing his degree, of being someone, shattered one by one, like fragile glass underfoot. No one asked him if he wanted this. No one ever did. "I'll do it," he murmured. The room exhaled. In another corner of the city, the Harrington Tower loomed like a dark monolith in the skyline, its top floors glinting with power and ice. Cole Harrington sat in his glass-walled office, a quiet storm in a black suit. 33 years old, tall and broad, with the kind of face that belonged on magazine covers and wanted posters alike. Sharp jaw, high cheekbones, short black hair styled with ruthless precision. His blue eyes could slice through granite. The man across from him, a graying lawyer named Adam, tapped a stack of papers. "You have 1 week, Cole." Cole arched a brow. 1 week to what? Fall in love? Have a child? "To get married," Adam said simply. "The board and your grandfather's estate are very clear. No spouse, no inheritance." Cole leaned back in his chair, tapping his fingers against the leather armrest. "I suppose I could marry you, Adam. You've always had such a warm smile." Adam didn't blink. "You need someone agreeable. Quiet. Harmless. Someone who won't demand anything except a paycheck." Cole's smirk faded slightly. "So a contract marriage." Adam slid a sleek tablet across the table. "I've already narrowed it down. These are all pre-screened candidates. Most of them come from families that could use the financial boost. They'll agree to the terms. 1 year. Discretion. Divorce after the inheritance is secured." Cole scrolled through the faces. Smiling men, posed men, men with ambition in their eyes. And then he paused. A boy with wide brown eyes and a fragile kind of beauty. His expression wasn't seductive or proud. He looked like someone trying not to breathe too loudly. "Name, Harry Alden. Age 21. Cole stared at the image for a long moment. "This one," he said finally. Adam blinked. "You're sure? He's very young." "He looks obedient," Cole replied coolly. "I don't want a partner. I want silence. I want space. He won't get in the way." Adam hesitated, then nodded. "Very well. I'll arrange the marriage license. The Aldens are eager." Cole turned his chair to face the city skyline. His reflection ghosted against the glass, lonely, unreachable. "It's just a year," he murmured. "Then it's over." The wedding was small, sleek, clinical. Held in the Harrington family's private estate garden, it had all the hallmarks of money and none of the warmth of love. Journalists weren't allowed. Guests were limited to a select handful of shareholders and legal witnesses. Even the flowers were white and emotionless. Harry stood at the altar in a pale cream suit that clung gently to his frame, his skin almost luminous against the fabric. His curls had been neatly styled, and a soft pink touched his cheeks, though whether from makeup or sheer nerves was unclear. He looked like a porcelain doll someone had left out in the cold. Cole arrived late. When he stepped out of the black car, time stilled. Every head turned. He was dressed in all black. Black suit, black tie, black cufflinks, and when he walked, the air seemed to bend around him. Power, money, control. Harry saw him and nearly forgot to breathe. Cole's eyes swept the ceremony and finally landed on Harry. Something flickered across his face. He hadn't expected him to be this beautiful. Not fragile in a fake way. Just real. Breakable. Their eyes locked. Harry looked away first. When the officiant began the vows, Harry's voice trembled. "I do." Cole, ever composed, repeated the words like a businessman signing a contract. But when he slipped the ring onto Harry's finger, his hand lingered just a second too long. The kiss was brief and cool, a brush of lips more than anything else, yet Harry felt it down to his bones. His heart was pounding for all the wrong reasons. When the ceremony ended, Cole offered him his arm. Harry hesitated, then took it. It was done. He was no longer just Harry Alden. He was Harry Harrington. And as they stepped into the car that would take them to their shared new life, Harry couldn't stop the thought that echoed through his head. This isn't love. It's a sentence. But Cole, staring out the window, had a different thought entirely. This should be easy. So why does he already look like something I'll break without meaning to? Chapter 2. We Don't Have to Pretend at Home. The mansion they moved into wasn't a home. It was a statement. Perched high above the city, the Harrington estate looked more like a glass museum than a place two people were meant to live. Floor-to-ceiling windows, silent hallways, cold steel surfaces. Not a speck of warmth to be found anywhere. The kind of place where echoes sounded lonely instead of loud. Harry stood at the doorway, suitcase in hand, staring up at the building like it might swallow him whole. Cole barely glanced over his shoulder. "Come in." Harry followed him wordlessly, his polished shoes clicking too loudly against the marble floors. His fingers clutched the handle of his suitcase tighter as they moved through the main hall, past abstract art pieces, sleek furniture with sharp corners, and no sign of anything lived in. No photos. No mess. No color. Just like Cole. Cole finally stopped outside a door on the second floor. "This is your room," he said, pushing it open. "There's a study next to it if you need to work. My room is at the end of the hall. We don't have to pretend in here. Not with anyone watching." Harry nodded, still holding on to the handle of his suitcase like it was the only thing keeping him upright. "I won't touch you," Cole added. His voice was blunt, clipped. "You have your space. I have mine. Just follow the rules, don't cause problems, and this will be over in a year." Harry looked up at him slowly. Cole's face was unreadable. "Yes," Harry whispered, "I understand." Cole turned and walked away without another word. The first few days settled into a rhythm that wasn't quite life, but wasn't death either. Harry didn't explore much. He spent his days between his bedroom, the study, and the library, which was the only place in the mansion that felt remotely human. Rows of books, soft armchairs, and a faint scent of leather and dust. He was quiet. Always. Too quiet, in fact. Cole noticed that quickly. Noticed the way Harry moved like he was trying not to exist. How he never spoke unless spoken to. How he didn't seem to eat unless someone placed food directly in front of him. The first night, Harry made tea for both of them. He didn't ask. Just quietly placed a cup on the kitchen island and disappeared back into his room. Cole didn't drink it. The second night, he did. By the fourth night, the tea had become a silent ritual. Harry placing it at the counter at exactly 8 p.m., Cole drinking it without comment. No thanks, no praise. But he drank it. It was, Harry supposed, the closest thing they had to communication. The housekeeper arrived on the fifth day. Her name was Monica, and she exploded into the sterile mansion like a glitter bomb someone had set off in a courtroom. She was in her late 40s, short and round, with wildly curly red hair and the kind of earrings that jingled when she turned her head. She carried grocery bags in both arms, humming off-key, and greeted Cole like he was a misbehaving nephew. "Well, this place still looks like a bank lobby," she muttered, dropping bags on the kitchen counter. "No color, no soul. If you weren't so damn rich, I'd call this a crime scene." Cole barely spared her a glance. "Good morning, Monica." She looked up and saw Harry, and paused. Her eyes softened in an instant. She walked over, hands on hips, and gave him the once-over that only maternal women and war generals could do properly. "And you must be the new husband." Harry's cheeks flushed. "Yes, ma'am." "Oh, ma'am," he says, she huffed. "You're already my favorite. Look at you. Skinny as a stick, poor thing. Do you even eat?" Harry gave a polite little smile and didn't answer. Monica made a disapproving noise in the back of her throat. "Cole, I hope you're not starving the boy." "I'm not starving anyone," Cole said dryly. Monica muttered, squinting at him. "We'll see." Over the next few days, she made it her personal mission to meddle. She accidentally left dinner plates set for 2 instead of 1. She baked cookies and told Harry to deliver them to Cole's office. She made a show of talking about love being hard work. Always in earshot, always with a wink. Cole ignored her. Harry didn't know what to do with her. But for the first time since the wedding, he laughed. Only once. And very quietly. One night, Cole walked into the kitchen to find Harry standing on his tiptoes, trying to reach a mug from the top shelf. He wore a soft, oversized sweater and thin cotton pants, the sleeves swallowing his hands. His hair was damp from a shower, curls sticking to the sides of his face. Cole didn't say a word, just reached over him and grabbed the mug without effort. He held it out silently. Harry blinked up at him. "Thank you." Cole nodded and stepped back. Their fingers hadn't touched, but something about the moment lingered in the air like steam. That night, Cole ordered 3 different dishes from Harry's favorite restaurant. He didn't tell him, just left them on the counter beside the tea. Harry stared at the containers when he came down. Opened one. His eyes widened, then another, and another. He sat down and ate slowly, quietly, savoring every bite. He didn't say anything, but Cole noticed the next day when Harry left a tiny folded note next to the tea. "Thank you." In soft, curved handwriting. Nothing else. Later that week, the storm hit. Not outside. Inside Harry. He'd held it together for longer than he thought possible. But the weight of everything, the fake marriage, the manipulation, the betrayal of his own dreams, finally cracked him open. It started with a simple shower. Just hot water. A quiet evening. Nothing unusual. But then he sank down onto the tile floor, hugged his knees to his chest, and sobbed. Not loudly, not theatrically, just quiet, hopeless crying. The kind that came from a deep, lonely part of him that had waited years for someone to choose him. Love him. Just once. He pressed his face into his arms and wished, just for a second, that he'd never been born into that awful family. That he hadn't agreed to this. That he'd never seen Cole's cold blue eyes or walked into this museum of a mansion. He cried until the water ran cold. Upstairs, Cole heard everything. He'd been walking past the bathroom when the sound stopped him in his tracks. At first, he thought Harry had slipped. But then he heard the small, choked gasps, the broken breaths, and then silence. He stood there for a long time, listening, his fingers curled into fists at his sides, but he didn't knock. Didn't open the door. Instead, when Harry finally came out, eyes red, skin pale, sweater sleeves damp, he found his room exactly the way he left it, except for one thing. Folded neatly on the floor beside his door was a thick, soft blanket. Navy blue, brand new, still smelled like clean cotton, no note, no explanation, just warmth. Harry picked it up slowly, clutching it to his chest. He didn't cry again that night, but he didn't sleep either, because for the first time since the marriage, something shifted. The mansion was still cold, the silence still heavy, but Harry thought, maybe, just maybe, he wasn't entirely alone. Chapter 3. Do you ever think about what you really want? Harry's alarm buzzed at precisely 6:30 a.m., cutting through the silence of his room like a blade. He reached out with a sleepy hand and turned it off, blinking up at the ceiling of his enormous impersonal bedroom. The walls were white, the shelves pristine, the window too large. Nothing in the space belonged to him. Not really. Not even the marriage that put him here. But school? That still felt like his. He showered, dressed in a soft gray sweater and jeans, and gathered his things quietly. By the time he crept downstairs, the house was still. Cole was either asleep or already at work. Probably the latter. Harry paused briefly in the kitchen, scribbled a note, "Good morning. Tea's on the stove," and left it beside a warm mug before slipping out the door with his backpack slung over one shoulder. The university campus was a welcome change. No marble floors, no glass walls. Just noise and students and the comforting smell of too much coffee and paper. He kept his head down, found his lecture hall, and took a seat near the back. His classmates barely noticed him. That was fine. He liked it better that way. The class was advanced thermofluids. Most students groaned when the professor walked in with a long, complex equation written across the board. "This," the professor announced, "is the simplified model of the Navier-Stokes equation applied to compressible flows. I want you to solve for the velocity gradient at the boundary layer, assuming turbulent flow and variable viscosity. Anyone up for the challenge?" Silence. A few students shifted in their seats. One girl tried to suppress a groan. Harry didn't raise his hand. He never did. But his pen moved quickly over his notebook, almost absent-mindedly, translating numbers and symbols into shapes and patterns that made sense to him. He liked the way equations fit together, like puzzles, like music. The professor walked the room, pausing when he passed Harry's desk. He leaned down, brow furrowing as he studied the page. "This is correct," he said, more surprised than anything. Harry looked up, startled. "Oh, I didn't mean, I was just trying something." "Trying something?" The professor laughed. "You solved a graduate-level equation in under 4 minutes." A few students turned to stare. Harry's ears burned. He looked down, hiding behind his hair. After class, several people approached him, asking how he did it, where he learned, if he was some kind of math genius. Harry just smiled, soft and small, and excused himself. He didn't want to be seen. He just wanted to belong. Back at the mansion, chaos simmered beneath the polished floors. Cole stood at the center of his office, jaw tight, voice like steel. His tech team had gathered around the massive screen on the far wall, which flashed with warnings in red and white. "Someone accessed our client files through a back door in the payment system," his head of security explained. "No major losses yet, but it's a vulnerability. They slipped in through an old integration we didn't patch. We're trying to locate the entry point." "Trying?" Cole's voice dropped. "We don't try. We fix. I don't want this happening again." The team dispersed after a while, and Cole sat at his desk, fuming quietly. He didn't trust half the people he paid. Paranoia came with the territory. The only reason the Harrington Empire hadn't collapsed from the inside was because he trusted no one. Not with his business. Not with his life. He leaned back in his chair, rubbing a hand over his face. He'd barely noticed it was already dark outside. Monica noticed. Harry was in the kitchen again, boiling water for their evening tea, when she leaned on the counter beside him and said, "He's in a foul mood." Harry glanced up, startled. "Cole?" Yelling into phones, cursing at emails. I nearly tripped over 3 terrified interns on my way out." She paused, then gave him a sideways look. "He's got a data problem, something about hackers." Harry frowned. "A data breach?" That's the word he used. Wouldn't tell me more, of course, but it looked serious. That night, after the tea was set on the counter like always, Harry returned to his room. But he didn't go to bed. He sat at his desk, laptop open, and pulled up an article about a recent cyber vulnerability in older financial software APIs, exactly the kind a high-profile firm might still use. He read through the exploit documentation and, without thinking too much, scribbled a few lines of suggestion on a folded piece of paper. A patch suggestion. A reroute protocol. He didn't sign it. Just folded it twice and slipped it under Cole's office door. Then he went to bed. The next morning, Cole stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, coffee in hand, reading the note. At first, he assumed it was from one of his team leads. Then he realized it wasn't. There was no signature. No company letterhead. but the writing was clear. The suggestion, rerouting through a proxy layer and isolating the breach before removing the back door, was brilliant. It worked. The breach was contained before noon, and Cole was stunned. He stared at the note for a long time before placing it in his drawer. He didn't ask Harry about it. But that evening, he sat down at the dinner table instead of eating in his office. Harry noticed. He paused in the kitchen, blinking. Did you want something? Cole looked up. I thought we could eat. Together. Harry hesitated. All right. They sat at the long table, too many chairs between them, the food arranged like a photo shoot. Monica had outdone herself again. Stuffed roasted vegetables, warm garlic bread, something with creamy sauce and herbs. Harry ate slowly, quietly. Cole did too. Halfway through, Harry looked up and said softly, Did the problem get fixed? Cole's fork paused. Yes, it did. Harry nodded. Good. A stretch of silence. Then Harry tilted his head, curious. Do you ever think about what you really want? Cole looked at him, and for a second the air changed. Not in a dramatic way. Not in an explosive romantic way. Just quieter. Like two people holding a secret between them. Cole studied him. Harry's expression wasn't sharp or challenging, just soft, thoughtful. What I want, Cole said finally, has never mattered much. Harry lowered his eyes. Maybe it should. Cole didn't reply. But the question followed him for the rest of the night. He began to see things after that. Small things. Harry curled up on the living room couch with a book in his lap, blanket tucked around his legs like a cocoon. The way he smiled to himself while reading. How he tucked his chin when someone raised their voice, like he expected to be punished. The way he looked up at the stars every night through the giant library window, as if they held answers no one on earth could give him. Cole saw it all, and he hated that it made him feel anything. He wasn't supposed to care. This was a business arrangement, but caring didn't ask for permission. A week later, Mason showed up. Harry wasn't expecting him. Monica called up from the intercom, saying someone from his family had arrived, and Harry's stomach twisted into knots. He met him in the driveway, away from Cole's view. Mason got out of his sleek black car wearing sunglasses and arrogance. You've been quiet. Harry crossed his arms. I didn't know I was supposed to report in. You are, Mason said. Dad wants updates. Where's the business info? Access codes? You haven't even asked for his login credentials yet. Harry felt sick. He's not careless. He doesn't leave things out. Then earn his trust, Mason said coldly. That's your job. You live in his house, sleep in his bed. What exactly are you doing all day? Making tea? Harry said nothing. Mason stepped forward, face tightening. You think he'll love you or something? He's a billionaire, Harry. You're a charity case. Don't forget who you are. Harry flinched. The words hit harder than he wanted to admit. You're not part of their world, Mason hissed. Get what we need, or we'll make sure you lose everything. Then he got in his car and drove away. Harry stood there for a long time, staring after him. Later that night, he sat beside the library window, blanket pulled around him, knees to his chest, staring at the stars with tired eyes. He felt the lie like a stone in his throat. He hated it. He hated them. And worst of all, he hated that he didn't want to betray Cole anymore. Chapter 4. If you're going to cry, cry in front of me. The storm rolled in just after midnight. Not one that howled through the city or sent lightning cracking across the sky. This one brewed quietly inside the Harrington mansion behind closed doors and under cold white sheets. Cole never got sick. That was something he'd said himself on more than one occasion, usually with that cold, confident smirk as if his immune system was just as ruthless as he was. But that night, he staggered out of his office looking pale and drenched in sweat, shirt clinging to his back, footsteps slow and unsteady. His breath was shallow, and the edges of his vision blurred. When he reached the stairs, he gripped the railing like it was the only thing keeping him upright. Harry found him moments later, halfway to his room. "Cole?" he asked, voice laced with confusion. He hadn't expected to see him, especially not like this. Cole didn't answer. He swayed once, then again, and then his knees buckled. Harry rushed forward, barely catching him by the arm. "You're burning up," he whispered, trying to support his weight. "Can you walk?" "I'm fine," Cole muttered, but his voice was weak and rasping, and he couldn't stand straight. It took effort to get him into bed. Cole fought it at first, stubborn even when he could barely speak. But his body gave up before his pride did, and within minutes he was collapsed against the pillows, skin flushed red with fever. Harry sat beside him, panic fluttering in his chest. He grabbed a basin and cloth from the bathroom, filled it with cool water, and returned to the bedroom. The mansion felt colder than usual, like even the walls had gone quiet out of respect. Harry dipped the cloth and pressed it gently to Cole's forehead. "You're okay," he whispered, dabbing sweat from his temple. "You'll be okay." He stayed that way for hours. Through the night, he changed the cloth, adjusted the blankets, whispered words he didn't know Cole could even hear. He coaxed sips of water between cracked lips and placed a hand on Cole's chest now and then, just to make sure it was still rising. Around 3 in the morning, Harry's body gave in. He curled up carefully beside Cole, too exhausted to make it back to his own room, head resting near Cole's shoulder, fingers tangled in the blanket. He was asleep before he even realized it. Cole woke sometime before dawn. He didn't remember much, just flashes of heat and cold and the softest voice coaxing him out of a fevered haze. Now, with his eyes open and the pain in his skull dulling, he felt the weight of something warm beside him. He turned his head. Harry was curled against him, still in his pajamas, curls messy and face soft with sleep. His lashes brushed his cheeks. One hand rested on Cole's arm, like he'd fallen asleep mid-care. Cole stared at him for a long time, longer than he should have, and something unfamiliar lodged itself in his chest. He didn't understand it, didn't have a name for it, but he didn't move. By morning, Harry stirred. He blinked sleepily, sitting up slowly and brushing hair from his eyes. "You're awake." Cole's voice was hoarse. "Barely." Harry reached for the cloth again. "You scared me." Cole's gaze lingered on him. "Why did you stay?" Harry hesitated, wringing the cloth in his hands. Then, softly, "Because I care." The words settled between them, gentle but powerful, and Cole looked at him as if Harry had just lit a match in a dark room. Harry looked down. "Sorry. I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable." Cole didn't speak. His throat was dry for reasons unrelated to the fever. He watched Harry fuss with the blanket, straighten the pillows, avoid his eyes. He felt that same strange thing twist inside him. And it terrified him. The next few days were quiet. Cole recovered quickly, of course he did, but something shifted in him. Subtle but steady. He stopped answering his phone during dinner, canceled an overseas trip his assistant had already booked, stopped bringing anyone home. He didn't explain any of it, but Monica noticed. And Monica always noticed. She cornered him in the kitchen one morning, arms folded across her chest, eyebrow arched. "You've been acting strange lately." Cole looked up from his espresso machine. "I'm fine." "You're not snapping at the cleaning staff." "I'm still snapping at you." "You haven't gone out in a week." Cole turned to face her fully. "What do you want, Monica?" She stepped closer, voice quieter now. "He's falling in love with you, you know." Cole stiffened. "You think I don't see it?" She went on. "The way he looks at you, like he wants to believe this is real, like he needs it to be real. And you don't scare him. Not like you scare everyone else. That boy would walk barefoot through glass if he thought it would make you smile." "He shouldn't," Cole said, his voice sharp and cold. Monica didn't flinch. "Maybe not. But he does." She left the room before he could reply. And Cole stood there for a long time, staring at the untouched cup of coffee in his hand, as if it might offer him an answer. That afternoon, Harry got a message. One of those ominous, "we need to talk" texts from his adoptive mother. The kind he never ignored, because ignoring them came with consequences. So he went. Mason was there, of course. So was his father. The conversation was cold and quick. "You're taking too long," Gregor snapped. "This was supposed to be simple." Mason leaned forward. "You're living with the guy. What's the holdup? You should have found a way to get into his financials by now." Harry's stomach churned. "He's private. I don't have access to." "Then find a way," Mason hissed. "Stop playing house and do what we sent you to do." Lorraine didn't say much, just watched him with that distant disgust she always wore when she looked at him too long, like she regretted every penny she'd spent feeding him. Harry left their home, feeling hollow, like a ghost wearing someone else's skin. It was nearly midnight when he returned to the mansion. He didn't go inside right away. Just slipped through the garden gate and sat on the stone bench near the fountain. The lights from the house were dim and far away. Out here, it was easier to breathe. His hands trembled in his lap. He hated lying, hated the ache in his chest when Cole looked at him like he trusted him, like he mattered. He didn't matter. Not to anyone, not really. Tears gathered in his eyes before he could stop them, and then spilled over. He pressed the back of his hand to his mouth, trying not to sob too loudly. "I just wanted to be loved," he whispered to no one. "I'm so tired of being used." The voice that answered him made him jump. "Then stop hiding when you cry." Harry spun around. Cole stood a few feet away, barefoot, dressed in soft sleep clothes that looked almost human on him instead of godlike. His arms were crossed, but his eyes were gentle, quiet. "I wasn't hiding," Harry lied. Cole stepped closer. "You were." Harry looked down, ashamed. "I didn't want to bother you." "You're my husband," Cole said softly. "You're allowed to bother me." Harry let out a trembling breath. You don't know what it's like." Cole sat beside him, careful not to touch. "Then tell me." Harry shook his head. "You wouldn't get it." "I want to," Cole said. That broke something open. Harry turned to him, eyes wet and bright. "They never loved me. I was just there. A charity project. And now I'm just a tool, a means to an end. I thought maybe this could be something. Not love, but safe. And I can't even have that." Cole didn't speak. Instead, he reached out, pulled Harry into his arms slowly, carefully, like he was afraid to break him. Harry froze, then melted. He clung to Cole's shirt and cried against his chest, the sound muffled but raw, and Cole just held him. No questions, no demands. Just warmth, just silence. Just arms around a boy who'd never been held like that before. And for the first time since the day of their wedding, Harry felt the faintest flicker of something that might someday become home. Chapter 5. You're not going anywhere. Cole hated business trips. They were all polished smiles and forced handshakes, fake laughter in conference rooms with men who smelled like money and fear. But this one, a 3-day summit in Geneva, was too important to skip. His company was entering a joint venture with a European conglomerate, and his presence was required. So when he stood at the foot of the staircase and called up to Harry, "Pack a bag, you're coming with me," he made sure his voice was impersonal. "For image," he added quickly. "The press will be there." But that wasn't the real reason. Harry appeared at the landing in a soft blue sweater and jeans, his hair still damp from the shower. "Are you sure?" Cole didn't meet his eyes. "It'll look suspicious if you stay behind." Harry nodded, not pushing further. He never did. The private jet was sleek, quiet, unnecessarily spacious. Harry sat across from Cole, legs curled under him, flipping through a book he barely read. Cole worked silently, though his eyes kept flicking upward. He liked having Harry nearby. The soft presence, the warmth, the quiet that wasn't empty. The hotel suite in Geneva was breathtaking, floor-to-ceiling windows, a balcony that overlooked the lake, and only one bedroom. Harry stood in the entryway, unsure. "Do you want me to sleep on the couch?" Cole frowned. "No, the bed's big enough." Harry hesitated, then nodded. "Okay." The first night, after a long dinner with potential investors, Cole returned to the room feeling oddly restless. He'd been sharp all evening, perfectly poised, but the moment he stepped into the quiet suite and saw Harry curled on the bed, flipping channels absently, something inside him loosened. Harry looked up. "You're back." Cole shed his jacket, tossed it onto a chair. They were exhausting. Harry smiled faintly. "You looked calm." "I was faking," Harry laughed softly. "You're good at that." Cole sat beside him on the edge of the bed. For a moment, they didn't speak. Just sat there in the dim hotel light, the city glittering below them. Then Cole said, "Why did you take care of me when I was sick?" Harry blinked. "Because I wanted to." "That's not an answer." Harry turned to him. "Because you matter to me. Because even if this isn't real for you, it became real for me." Cole looked at him for a long time, then leaned in. Their lips met, slow, soft, tentative. It wasn't practiced. It wasn't strategic. It wasn't like the kisses Cole had given or taken from countless others. It was real. When they pulled apart, Harry's cheeks flushed, eyes wide. "I've never been kissed like that," he whispered. Cole's throat tightened. "I'm not going to hurt you." Harry smiled, shy and warm. "I know." But Cole looked haunted, like he wasn't sure he deserved that trust. They didn't kiss again that night. They just lay side by side, sharing silence and space. But something had changed. something that couldn't be undone. Back home, Mason Alden seethed. The Harrington account, his family's most lucrative connection, had frozen. Cole wasn't taking calls. Something had shifted, and Mason was beginning to suspect that Harry was no longer playing along. So he acted. He had Harry's laptop password. He'd watched him type it in during a family dinner months ago. He used it to send malware, small, discreet, a backdoor protocol into Cole's data system. Just enough to force a vulnerability, enough to get a foot in the door. What Mason didn't realize was that Cole's tech security had been upgraded since the last breach. The trace was found within hours. And the signature? Unmistakably Harry's. When Cole confronted him, it wasn't like before. He didn't yell. He didn't throw things. He simply stood in the middle of the suite, holding Harry's laptop in one hand, his other clenched at his side. "What is this?" he asked. Harry stared at the device. What do you mean?" Cole opened the file, showed him the access logs. The path, the trace. Harry's stomach dropped. "No," he whispered. "No, I didn't do this." "You're the only one with this account," Cole said coldly. "The only one with access." Harry's legs gave out. He sat down hard on the edge of the bed. "My brother," he said, voice shaking. He must have used it. He's been pressuring me, my family. They made me do this, the whole thing, from the beginning. The marriage. They wanted me to get close to you, to find your financials. But I swear to you, I never." His voice cracked. "I didn't want to hurt you." Cole stared at him. Harry's eyes filled with tears. "I was scared. I didn't want this life, not like this. But they said they'd cut me off, take everything. They raised me like a tool, not a person. And then I met you, and you were cold, but kind in your own way. And I started to care, and I didn't know how to stop." The tears fell freely now. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Cole sat down slowly across from him, and for a long moment he said nothing. Then, "You should have told me." Harry buried his face in his hands. "I was scared. I would have protected you," Harry sobbed. "I didn't know you'd want to." And there it was, the truth neither of them had wanted to say aloud. Cole exhaled slowly, then stood. Then walked to the desk, pulled out his phone, and made a call. "This is Cole Harrington. Terminate all contracts with the Alden family. Effective immediately. Pull the funds. Freeze the accounts. Blacklist them from future partnership consideration. Yes. All of them." He hung up, turned to Harry. "You're not a pawn anymore," he said quietly. "You're mine." Harry looked up, stunned. "You mean that? I don't say things I don't mean." And then he crossed the room, pulled Harry up from the bed, kissed him. Deep this time, with heat and promise and something close to desperation. They undressed slowly, reverently, as if every layer was a wound being exposed. In the soft light of the hotel room, Cole laid Harry down against the pillows and touched him like he was made of porcelain and starlight. There was no rush, no hunger to devour, just lips pressed to skin, fingers laced, breath shared, whispers exchanged. "I want to make this real. I've never done this before. You don't have to be afraid. You're safe." And for the first time in his life, Harry believed it. When they moved together, it wasn't just bodies. It was something holy. Something broken being carefully, painfully made whole again. After, Cole wrapped Harry in his arms and kissed the top of his head, holding him like something precious, like something he never planned to let go. And Harry, curled against his chest, whispered, "I've never felt like I belonged anywhere before this." Cole kissed his temple. "You do now." Chapter 6. I Didn't Know Love Until You. The weeks that followed weren't perfect. They were better. Gone was the cold, calculated silence of the Harrington mansion. In its place, warmth had bloomed in quiet, beautiful ways. Mornings with shared coffee, nights curled beneath blankets, laughter echoing in rooms that used to be silent. Cole had stopped closing himself off. Harry had stopped holding his breath. They cooked together now. At first it was awkward. Cole burning toast, Harry oversalting pasta. But there was laughter, the kind that softened tension and filled the house with something unspoken but undeniable. Sometimes Monica would wander through the kitchen, tear up, and claim it was just the onions. Harry now slept in Cole's bed every night. Not because he had to, because he wanted to. It was never about sex or obligation. It was about falling asleep to the rhythm of someone else's breathing. About curling into warmth that welcomed you. About waking up to a hand gently stroking your hair and a voice murmuring, "Stay a little longer." and Cole had changed. Not in the ways the world could see. He was still sharp, still respected, still terrifying in the boardroom. But at home, in the privacy of the life they built, he was softer, slower. He smiled more. He touched Harry with reverence, with quiet adoration. He never stopped whispering his name, while brushing a curl from his forehead, while kissing his shoulder in the early morning, while pulling him into an embrace like he was afraid Harry might vanish in his sleep. Harry, for the first time in his life, believed he was wanted. He was seen. It was a rainy afternoon when Harry sat cross-legged in the study, surrounded by papers and mechanical sketches. His hair was in soft disarray, sleeves pushed up, graphite smudged on his fingertips. Cole stood in the doorway, watching him. Harry didn't notice at first, too absorbed in the design he was refining, adjusting angles, scribbling equations with quiet intensity. Finally, Cole cleared his throat. Harry looked up, startled, and immediately tried to gather his things. "Sorry, I didn't mean to take over the whole room." "Stop," Cole said, smiling. "Don't move." Harry blinked. "What? You look." Cole shook his head, amused. "Like you belong here." Harry's lips parted, heart skipping once. "I do?" Cole stepped into the room. "What are you working on?" "It's nothing really," Harry said quickly. "Just a concept for a microreactor for renewable thermal regulation in building systems. Something your energy subsidiary mentioned needing in that investor meeting last month." Cole raised a brow. "You were listening to that?" Harry gave a small, shy nod. "I always listen." Cole picked up the blueprints, examined them. After a long, thoughtful pause, he looked back at Harry. "This is brilliant." Harry flushed. "It's just an idea. It's going to be more than an idea." Cole dropped the papers gently on the desk. "I want this developed, funded. I want you to lead it." Harry froze. "You don't have to do that just because—" "I'm not doing it because I love you," Cole interrupted, voice firm but warm. "I'm doing it because you're a genius. The rest is just a bonus." And that was how it began. Harry, the soft-spoken engineering student no one ever looked twice at, became a silent force in Cole's empire. He didn't attend press conferences, didn't speak at galas, but Cole credited him by name, publicly. And every time his name appeared in a press release or a shareholder memo, Harry would run his fingers over the words and whisper, "He sees me." One evening, Harry stood on the balcony, wrapped in one of Cole's sweaters, staring out at the glittering skyline. The air was cool, tinged with the scent of rain and spring. Cole came up behind him, arms wrapping loosely around his waist. Harry leaned back against his chest. "You've been quiet tonight," Cole said. "Just thinking," Harry murmured. "About?" Harry turned in his arms. "About how no one ever looked at me the way you do." Cole brushed a curl from his face. "How do I look at you?" Harry hesitated, eyes glassy. "Like I matter." Cole exhaled slowly, then reached into his pocket. Harry's breath caught when Cole pulled out a small velvet box and opened it to reveal a delicate silver ring, simple and elegant, with a band that shimmered subtly in the light. "It's not the one I married you with," Cole said, voice low. "That one was for obligation. This one's for love." Harry covered his mouth with his hand, eyes filling. "I want you to choose me this time," Cole added. "Not because you have to. Because you want to." Harry didn't speak. He just threw his arms around Cole and whispered, "Yes, yes, I do." The vow renewal was small, just a few close friends, business partners, and Monica, who sobbed through the entire ceremony and loudly insisted it was allergies. Cole wore a sleek black suit. Harry wore cream again like on the first day, but this time his cheeks were flushed with happiness, not fear. They stood under soft lights in the Harrington garden, holding hands. Cole whispered, "You saved my life." Harry whispered back, "You gave me one." They kissed to the sound of gentle applause, the world finally right. Cole's company continued to thrive. Investors were happy. Partnerships flourished. The world saw Cole Harrington as more powerful than ever. But behind the scenes, he never stopped coming home to Harry. He never stopped making dinner, or drawing him close at night, or whispering his name like a prayer into his ear until Harry fell asleep with a smile on his face. And every night, Harry would close his eyes and listen to that voice, low and gentle. "Harry, I love you. You're safe with me. You're mine." He never had to be alone again. He never had to hide again. And in the quiet of their bedroom, heart full and body warm, Harry whispered the truth that had changed everything. They forced me to marry him to steal his fortune, but what I stole instead was his heart.